three.
So, John, can you shift this way a little bit, because the mic is right here.
Right there?
Yeah, that's a shotgun mic.
Everybody.
Yeah. Maybe you can leave some room for each other.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Arms up. 1, 2, 3. Right. 2, 3. Left. Center. Inhale. Press and exhale. Again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Center. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Center. Hands on your waist rotations. Keep your head stationary. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Cross the hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Neck exercise, right to left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Tilting side to side. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Rotating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Deep breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, letting up on the toes. Exhale, lower. Opening up, kick out the heels, toes, heels, straighten, arm swings. 2. 1 and 2. Cross the hands to the right. 1, 2, 3. Switch. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Straighten the front leg, stretching. Switch. 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 Okay. Lean forward, back foot flat on its side. Back to out. Take the front toe out, the inside elbow down, best you can. Turn, toe up. Switch. Back to out, elbow down. Two up. Foot flat. Shift weight. So instead of leaning forward, I try to keep upright. And sit, rise, sit. Open it up. To the right. And the left. the center. And sit back. Switch. Forward my leg. Switch. Breath. Hands up, knee raises. Turning up. Deep breath. Feet shoulder width, outside the feet are parallel. Relax, bend the knees, punching. Switch. Switch to the side. Switch. Arms up, elbows in, straighten across the body, turn the waist. Switch side of the fist. Switch. Switch, continuous punch. fist. Switch. And stop. Feet 3 inches apart, hands at your side. The fist opening up on the knees, heel, toe, heel, straight, sink down and punch it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, and 2. Low block. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, and 2. Extend. Close. Middle block. Palm faces the shoulder. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. High block, eyebrow height, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. All three, low, middle, high, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, and 2. Low block and punch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Middle block, punch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. High block and punch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Arms up. Off the tiger bridges. Extend, inhale, press, and exhale. Focus on the center of the palm. 3, 4, 5, 6. Low gate, press waist high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. High gate, eyebrow height. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Straight up from the shoulders. Sink. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Extend. Turn. Press. Close. Close it up. Deep breaths. Left leg forward, we'll kick with the toe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, heel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Blade of the foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Deep breaths. All right, now let's get to the waist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Right house to the head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Let's kick, straight leg kick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Deep breaths. Take a break. When you line break back. No, I don't think it is. Let's try.
Then he wants to come to the tree and back to take out.
Hopefully it's like that down, right?
All right, ready? We're going to do sharp trances real quick. Not quick, but accurate. Ready? Up! Go. Sink. Open. Push. 1, 2, 3. Up, down, thrust, sink. 1, 2, 3. Salute.
You do the salute?
Yeah, we used to just stop it, but then we did the salute after we did. But because it's part of the form anyway, you might as well do the full salute. That way, they get to practice the salute with their beginners. And that gives them, because, you know, even new students, when they, after they bow, they don't know the salute, they don't go through footwork, so they just go like that.
Even I don't know the salute.
But, you know, but in general, you know the salute.
Well, even last week you were telling me.
We keep getting corrections.
Like that. Not like this.
So, no, I'll fix that.
Yeah.
So go in between, go in between. It's always a compromise. Balance. Already, go. Up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, shake it out. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. So, while, we film a lot of the things and it goes out on YouTube. So a lot of response of people that are watching, people at the academy do forms, or even when I teach a class, they're pretty amazed at the consistency of positions. And so that's one of the things we take pride in, as far as, getting our movements to be, consistent. So that's because a lot of people that have never had an experience learning martial arts don't know how that's done. And even when we first went to tournaments back in, 1996 and 1997, I was surprised when I went to some of these tournaments that a lot of kids, when they were doing their basic punches in the form, had terrible punches. But learning how to do a punch should be the basic fundamental that everyone learns. So, not every school is, focused on that, but the ones that we saw that were competitors, and they were all Kung Fu styles, they had some pretty terrible punches. And that, to me, that would be, not acceptable in any style, that you can't throw a great punch. So I think part of that is because people don't recognize the fact that you have to reference your own body. So when we do our punches, it's always shoulder level and it's always directed to the center. So we use that as the fundamental guideline. So if you punch to the center, single-handed, then you have a target position that's virtual, because maybe part of it is because when you're doing fist forms, it's not tangible, so you really don't have any association to what you're hitting. Whereas if you're going to hit a target, that's what you shoot for. But when you're punching in space, you really don't know where it's going. So the only way to really define that space is by using a reference point. Now when we punch with two hands, it's parallel. When we punch vertical, horizontal, it's parallel. So that's one of the principles that we follow. And it's not just my principle, it's a principle that my teacher taught. So we talk about the center line. So that's an imaginary line. It also is the line that bisects your body. So you have two hemispheres of your body. You have to balance the movements on each side to have it compatible. It has to work together. So when it works together, that's when your body form becomes accurate and precise. Because as creatures of habit, if we do something over and over again, it starts to format in your body and it becomes part of you. But if you don't understand what your the goal in that and the strategy of practicing is, then you really don't know that the body is going through this process. And then at the same time, we can develop bad habits, because you can learn good habits as well as bad habits because you're doing it over and over again. So, through a process of elimination, you start to discover, what we're trying to do, because you have to discover that. And then through a process of elimination, you can decide which one is better. And that's really a choice thing until you bring in a principle or a concept. Then it has to follow and abide by that rule. But without the rule and the principle and the guideline, then it's just kind of, it's kind of acceptable like that. But it's critical when you advance into a higher level, because if we have our hands like this or we have our hand like this, then it has to abide by that central position. It's here to the side. It's not in the middle, it's on the side, because that's taking it to here. The middle block, when we cross like this, goes to the center, from the outside in. But when you cross the body, it goes from here actually only to there. So if you think about the middle block, we have this, that's the salute block, right? From here, it just has to move from there to there, from center to the shoulder, from center to the shoulder. So you say, well, that's kind of shallow. It doesn't move enough to block, right? But really, because we turn the body, and we turn the body, we make up some of our transition with the fact that our body is actually part of that movement. So one of the things that we strive for is integration of body, right? So integration of body means turning or moving forward and back. The other day, Saturday, we were talking about, I think John asked the question, not this John, but the other John Shirley, he was talking about the brush knee movement, why the palm looks like it's going forward, but he can't figure out how the legs work. Well, that's exactly what happens. When you punch, it's the same thing. You're driving, it doesn't get from this point to that point without the transition in the legs. So that creates the momentum, because force comes from the ground, and the ground is your foundation. So all our movements should be driven from your legs. So the stance is important. So when we turn and this drops and you extend this knee, the momentum that carries force to the fist is really that transition. And then the fact that the knee goes forward, however little that may appear to be, you have forward momentum transferred as weight into your forward leg. So that transfers force into the hand. And that's because you have a mass that's moving forward. This is part of that mass. So you generate that. So when you move that mass forward, there's acceleration. And the more or the quicker you can recruit the muscles that require to get you at point A to point B, the more momentum and speed that you develop. So, it's always interpreted in different ways, but the analogy sometimes I use is like when you're driving your car and you have an object sitting in your seat and you slam on the brakes, whatever's free, it just flies, right? And it goes forward because it's moving as fast as the vehicle. Then when you have a sudden stop, it just wants to go forward. So your body's doing the same. Like if this was like that object and you just move forward and stop, this thing's going to fly out. So that's sort of what happens. So you can see it creates the acceleration based on that. So you don't really need any strength, because if an object's sitting there, it's not doing anything. There's no forces acting on it. It just is carrying the energy from the momentum of your speed created by the vehicle. So that's what momentum is. So when we move our body fast, we can move very fast. So our palm is the same way. When you swing a golf club, actually, it's the same way. When you use momentum, but what are some of the forces that are acting on that movement aside from the fact that you created acceleration from recruiting your body? You have gravity, right? Gravity acts on anything that's free falling, accelerates with gravity, right? So when you drop something down fast, like a golf club, and direct it accurately through body mechanics, then you have a very precise position to hit that little object and send it out hundreds of yards. So the same thing happens with your sword. If you take the sword like this and you free fall it, it's going to chop down and accelerate without any effort at all, other than dropping it, the initial start, and then it picks up force when it comes up. The same thing happens when you do the Lau Soi stick form. You bring it to here, like you're going to swing an axe, and you release your arm, free fall, whoop, and you create an acceleration with gravity. So what are you doing when you do that? You're borrowing the strength. It's called a universal strength. We're borrowing it from gravity. Now, if there wasn't gravity, it wouldn't go like that. It would kind of want to float. But you're accelerating using capturing that energy and the body mechanics of the downward movement and the coordination of your limbs to direct it to where you want it to hit. So the direction of the strike, guided by the center line and your stance and so forth. Here's my center. I follow the track to there, and I end up here. So truly vertical, right? That's going to be the most direct, and things fall vertically down. They don't fall like that unless you put another force laterally to it, and then they'll go over there. But with a stick, you just have to drop, boom. And then when I go like this, and I free fall forward and lunge like that, then the force goes over there. Because you created acceleration and you created a downward strike, some gravity pulling it down, and most of it is directing. So when we talk about how much strength do you use, you have to use the correct amount of strength. So how much is that? That's really depending on who's doing it and how coordinated your body is. So that's it's a variable. It really doesn't, you can't say I'm going to use 50 pounds of strength to get a 70-pound poke on the end. It doesn't work like that. You want to get the maximum potential of that movement based on your acceleration in your body. So that would vary. Not everybody has the same ability to do that. So just like if you were to strike down and hit to break something, so say how much force it takes to break that. Well, it would take a certain amount. You can calculate how much it is to break the stone or brick, but it's going to vary among the individuals as to how much body mass they need, how much speed they need to recruit from the arm before the acceleration, before gravity kicks in. So all of those stuff have become part of the summation of components. So summation of components is, if I go like this, that's part of that summation. So if I'm here and I just go like that, it's only your arm. If I go like this, I turned. I added a rotation. If I sink in my stance, I added gravity. I release my shoulder, I added gravity. Because if I don't release my joint, the shoulder, which is really the restricting motion, tension, then it can't free fall, right? So free fall is what you want. Free fall will allow acceleration to be at its maximum. So what happens is you use a lot less strength. But it doesn't mean it's not controlled strength, because you have to direct it. But at the bottom of that movement, it should be a release of that power. That's what that power, when you release it, is transmitted, right? Because it's transmitted because it has follow through, and it goes through. If you stop it, then you negated some of the strength, so that's like putting on brakes. If you stop it, what ends up happening is the strength is choked up in your shoulder because you put muscular force to stop it. So you don't really need to stop it, and you don't really need to break your own joints by letting it free fall completely. You have to just let it finish. And you finish because it becomes a finalization. So the strength goes like that. But what went beyond that is part of, just like we're talking about, that object flying in a car. So that's the kind of power we're trying to develop, right? So everyone's coordination, everyone's ability to direct it varies because you can't figure out the alignment of the movement, the alignment of the movement, the alignment of the movement. Those three movements are exactly the same. There's no difference. The stance is different. So when we go through our forms, that's what we're trying to get to happen. Sort of maximize the potential from the body's strength, and then get the best alignment you can by manipulation of your skeletal structure, and then integrate as many parts of your body as you can to create that summation of components, and always have and bear in mind that gravity is always working for you. But it also works against you if you fight it, right? So let's go through Gung Kuen. Now, Gung Kuen is full of fundamentals. Gung Kuen is like the heart of all the movements we have. And if you go through it, you see that there's, commonality throughout. Okay, ready? Begin. Hup. Okay, Fook Fu, go. Continue. Okay, deep breathing. So last class, actually, it was a pretty small class. So I opened up to some question and answering to people that were online. So one of the questions that someone asked, which I found pretty interesting, and it was a beginner. He said, what does a beginner need to do when they learn Tai Chi and then want to teach it? Right? So what do you think is the most critical part of learning to become a teacher? Aside, after you learn Tai Chi, you have to learn to be a teacher. What you have to do is pay particular attention to how you're learning it. Because you're going to have to draw off at some point some of those ideas that were used to teach you. So we have actually a pretty, organized way of teaching, from foundation movements, fundamentals, sequence, and then you build off of that. Then you build in transitions, imagery, timing, posture, position, geometry of position. All of these things are actually, strategies in learning, but also strategies in teaching. So if you miss all the points during basic years, you get to a point when you're about to teach and you don't remember how you learned it. So that's how important it is to go through, because you have to learn by thinking back. You can't learn from thinking forward. All the things that I teach actually is information that my teacher has shared with me, and he repeated it so many times that it echoes in my head. So when I talk about a principle, I can almost hear him telling me it, while I was learning it. And that's how important that is, because you house that information throughout your life, because you never forget what he's told you. And especially if it's something that's important, because you're going to hear it all the time. You hear me say, sink your elbow, relax the shoulder, center line, triangles, squares, and hoops. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you're first learning it, because it's so simple. Everybody knows what a triangle is. Everybody knows what a circle is. But do you know it in the body like you should know it? The body doesn't know it because it hasn't assimilated it, hasn't absorbed it. Just like food. We know what to eat, but if you don't eat the right things, your body doesn't get the nutrients and the benefit if it's, if you're not eating properly. So when you're practicing the wrong way, you're going to not understand what we're trying to develop. So this is why learning sequence is what everybody wants to do, learn more form, but the transition, the timing that we're talking about always needs a lot of work. So how do you develop your postures? You hear about it. It's repetition. We can only build our sequential type things in memory by doing it over and over again. But the individual posture, you have to understand the timing and the physical action that's required to get it to happen. So each posture has to be done over and over again. It's kind of a dosing, right? So when we do, say, corner back fist, even though we talk a lot about corner back fist, you know, we seem to miss the position, and it varies among every individual. So, you know, when we talk about geometry of position, if you're in a horse stance and this is your slant, that's the direction your hands go, right? So it's just 45 degrees. Now, if it's more level, it's more horizontal, it's that kind of back fist. If it's higher, it's that kind of back fist. If it's 45 degrees, it's that kind of back fist. So that's just the basic guideline, that this is low, this is middle, this is high. But when you throw a back fist, it has to be directed by the elbow, because the elbow determines where the angle of that position, right? But at the same time, we have to take in consideration the amount of force going in a direction. Now you have to take in consideration your horse stance. The horse stance is weak from front to back. It's strong from side to side. So if the hands are going like this, you're going to reach a point of diminishing return. It's going to start to lose power after a certain point because it passed your center. So to compensate for that, when it comes out on that 45, it continues to go down as you drop your elbow. So this is the first movement. The second movement, it tilts another 45 degrees. See, we're dealing with space, so if you look at the hand, and I go like this, that's aligned, right? If I take my forearm or my fist and turn it 45 degrees, I created a second dimensional movement. We missed that second dimension. That's something that has to happen as you turn. So once you sink in that to that 45 degree direction, then you settle in your stance, and it continues to go a little bit lower. And that's how you compensate for the weakness of the position. So looking at Lawrence's movement, it's actually off, even though he's trying really hard.
I always try.
I can tell
Try harder.
I can tell he's trying really hard, even through his mask. I can tell that his effort is there. So the reason why it's here, because, yeah, so right here is not strong, right? Right, you can feel it, right? No,
It should be over here.
here, no.
Huh.
Huh,
Can I go back to here? So it should be over here.
yeah.
Does it
But-
flex?
No, because you missed that,
Oh.
right? So when you did this, now feel it,
Oh yeah.
without even actually putting any strength in it. Because your body skeleton has positions that actually have advantages. So when you go into postures, you're really looking for the advantage position. Advantage position is the strength in the position that's natural. Anything outside of that natural position has to be compromised or supported by additional strength. So that means you have to use more strength or tense your body a little more. So it's not, doesn't mean it doesn't work, but it's not optimum. You have to find that position. So when you do the corner back fist, it has to turn like that. But in eighth form, or for Fook, you have this, it has to do that, right? Boom. So when it goes to here, it can't do that. It can't do that. It has to do this and then that. Because that's the technique, right? So this could be striking, this could be the second strike. This could be blocking, that could be the follow-up. Those two actions have to go hand in hand. So there must be a reason that, you know, the creator of this form has those movements in it. Why would he do 3 of those punches, followed, right, by these 3? So it must have importance. So you wouldn't just randomly do that. It's programmed. It's mapped out. They figure that that's how the transition is going to be when you're using those movements. So there's a reason for that, and that's what you have to understand. And then if you're here, and we turn, You have to set up for that, right? But you can't do this one-sided. You have to connect the other side. So when you're here and you're here, you have to do this. You have to create that action because the body expands. Now it goes that way, but this is the strength in the direction. So you don't need to do this. You just have to stop it here. Because if you go beyond that, so now it becomes acceleration here, and then it changes to a linear movement there. So while I'm, this is the only way your arm can move, by the way, that it has to go this way to get on this side. But you have to get it to here, and then halfway through, it has to expand. It doesn't go over here and then straighten. It becomes a slash, a slice. So it's a blend of turn and strike. So that's part of it. If you practice that movement, you have an opportunity to discover it if you do it 10,000 times. But who has time to do it 10,000 times, or who has the ambition to do 10,000 of those? Because it takes that long for you to discover it, right? So I give you the advice to do it like that, and then it's up to you to understand it. But you will understand it when I tell you now. But then next time you do it, it's going to be not what we talked about, because your body hasn't understood it yet. Your body has to understand what you take in here. Then it translates it into that. And then when it translates into that, then you've learned it. So that's really, part of the missing link when you're trying to evolve. Because if the body doesn't understand, doesn't matter how smart you are. It's really, an experience. And when the body begins to know it, and you can feel it, that's what, my teacher used to say in Chinese. It was, "Gamgao." You should feel the movement. I didn't know exactly what he was talking about. This is 40 years ago. It's really that, and they only tell you that in this expression, but the thing is, when you feel it, then you know what the structural integrity of the position is, the timing, and why the body has to be in a certain position. Then that information starts to explain what you heard, several months ago before. Like, so when I talk about, it might be 2 weeks, it might be a month, it might be 2 years before you say, oh, that's what that is. And then you'll understand it. Then as a teacher, you can see it, you can spot it. Because as a teacher, there's something that is really hard to sometimes comprehend, is that you really don't understand it till you can do it, and you really can't see it until you can do it yourself. So when you self-correct, then you can correct others without guessing that maybe it should be like this, maybe it should be like that. So anybody that becomes expert or proficient in their field of expertise would know that you've gone through it so many times in experience that when someone comes with the problem, you already have the solution. But if you haven't experienced and someone comes with the problem, then either you have to go through the process of figuring it out, or go to someone else that knows more, and then they'll tell you what's supposed to happen, or it doesn't get solved. So then it just hangs there. But that's how it is in life with anything that we do. There's problems, you have to solve it. Sometimes it's solved, sometimes it's never addressed. But that's because people maybe have never been there, right? So when you have a problem that you can't solve, it's something new. So when we're doing this type of thing, it's new to a lot of people. It's new to beginners. It's new to people that have been doing this for many, many years. But the basic thing is you're doing that, and your body is expanding, and it goes like that every single time, right? So we went over that, a few months ago. Yeah, so you feel the body. Now get it into the legs, because the legs are still a little bit sluggish in the legs. Yeah. So that's called upper-lower coordination, right? That term upper lower coordination is in like poems. They say 上下两腿. Upper lower coordination has to be a reason why they have this idea, right? So once you get there, the next step, sliding step punch, right? So that punch is a standard procedure. That's a basic. So you have a good punch there, then it should be good wherever you go. So right there. So what Irina was lacking a little bit, because when she's newer, is the shoulder was tense. Because when she went like this, it went up. And then the punch, throw the punch again. On this side, yeah. Okay. Yeah. The other punch, yeah. 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 So the shoulder's a little up. Yeah. And the reason why is because when you throw your punch, you let your elbow go up, so your shoulder's going up. So when you go like this, you want to keep your shoulder here, down, and then let it go. So what does that follow? It follows the principle of elbow down. The elbow has to be down, and then it comes out. So you don't want to turn the fist over too early, because if you turn over too early, look at what happens to my elbow. See? So there's no strength when the hand comes to here, because when the hand's like this, by the time it gets to the end, it had done that. Whereas when I'm here, when it comes from here, it stays and then it turns there. So it's more direct, it's more penetrating. Yeah, yeah. So you want to turn it at the very end. How much you extend, so that elbow's a little too extended, you want to stop it a little bit there. This is as far as it needs to go, because like that package that's flying in the car, your arm, this is the package. Once it starts to go and you stop, this doesn't have to lock out in order for there to be strength there. In fact, if you lock it out here and you hit something, your elbow is going to take the shock. And if that's really strong and locked, you're going to break your collarbone. So you ever see these people that do, like some of the breaking arts in competition? A lot of those guys break their elbow. They try to hit so hard like this, the force hits there, they shatter their elbow. We don't actually try to muscle it through. In fact, there's two terms. One's called live strength, one's called dead strength. Dead strength is just forcing your way through, like that big thing they use to break doors down. It's just a ram. You can't break something using this ram type idea because you're dealing with joints. You have to hit it and transfer the force, and it will still break. But it's, because force is equal opposite. If you hit it that hard, the force is going to come back in. So the way you would deal with that strength when it sort of rebounds is to let it go. It doesn't really lock out. Then the strength never comes back to you. So that rebound, like if you chop into a tree and you hold it too tight, what happens? You break the axe, you break the handle. So that's, if you're hitting and it's too hard, then the force will rebound and it'll snap whatever you're holding. Unless if you're holding it really tight, then it actually will shock your body. So those are examples of counterbalancing. This movement, when we're here, we turn like this. This foot and this hand should go together. This hand and this foot should go together. And this leg should be stable. So you always have to develop your rooted leg. So let's just do that a few times, just to see. So this is so this foot has to hook. It has to hook. So you have one more degree of control. This foot has to be like this. Hook it more, yeah. Hooking meaning it has to have strength pulling in. That has to have strength. Because when I'm here, I pull. I'm not actually just having it here. This is kicking it that way.
Yep.
This is pulling this way. So when I'm sweeping, I have to do that.
Sweaty.
So the hook really, that's the cowl, right? And then when you use the back of your foot, this has to, so there's an effort there and it has to go straight back. So when you go straight back, you can't do this. This has to go that way. Right? There's always counterbalance to movement because you have a force. And then when you hook, you can't go beyond your front, you can't go beyond the front leg. So these are all basic rules that when you do these movements, because you'll find the balance. Right? Yeah. Yeah, so your left leg is always the rooted leg. Yeah. But you have that even from here. Right? This, and is your rooted leg. This is your rooted leg. So that's your stabilizer. But it's not rooted in the sense that it's dead. It's not bolted down. It has to be live because here, between here, that has to turn this way. This has to turn back. If you don't turn it back and you do this, this leg is not strong. This has to come back. You see? So the idea, that's body mechanics, but you know, yeah. So, and then that's why I say, you know, Gung Kuen has all these fundamentals in it. So where is this developed in our fundamentals? When you do this, that's the sweeping motion, right? We only look at the stretch, but this is where you build that stability. Because when it went up, I went down. This leg has to go down, but your strength comes from here. So when you fold, it's bending, but not really just bending. It's sinking. Straight back, yeah. It's straight back, yeah. Yeah. So if you're standing, and I'm just going to show you a little, when I'm here, it comes like that, right? Yeah, straight back. Because just like this, this. Now if you want to angle it out, then your hand turns this way.
This direction.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how you take someone down. You're taking them, right, like that. See, so those are the body mechanics. You see the action, then you have to try to do it. So upper lower coordination is not just this or this. That's upper lower coordination. So you can imagine that's where the strength is built in the legs, because you learn to sink in the stance, not bend into the stance. Bending, it's different from squatting. So squatting is dead strength. It doesn't really, it's just for load. Live strength is action, because it's adjusting. That's what we call live strength, sanglet. The other's brute strength, which is dead strength. So these are principles that we need to understand. And then, those are the ones that I spotted mostly. Even this, when we go like this and we push, we have to sink the elbow first. So when you sink the elbow, you have to cup the shoulder a little bit, because just like the punch, it comes out like this. You have to sink the elbow and then come straight out. Otherwise, the strength coming out is not in here, it's here and it has no stability. Because if you push without focusing here and the rest of this, then when you push, you're actually going to go backwards because there's no dissipation of the force. So when you're like this, and I go like this, then the strength, when it hits here, goes in through the body into ground. Whereas this, you're still floating. So it's just a movement. So you have to sink, push, sink. This sink is down, and this is open. And then you push. So these are motions that you have to do to experience the difference. And that's what trial and error is. When you do the movement, is there a difference between this and this? One is what they call foul, floating. So there's two types of strength: floating strength, sinking strength, right? Because the yin and yang things are opposing. Floating strength is soft. Sinking strength becomes powerful downward. So there's what we call sinking strength or chim ging. Foul ging is that it just goes with the flow. Foul is not fighting you. So floating is like this: float and then press, right? So it's like the analogy of water. It's a wave. So it's wave energy. It's called wave in Chinese called bulong. Or bulong is a wave. A wave is very powerful. You know, when there's hurricanes, they move ships, they topple over no matter how big it is. Just the wave, the eddies, is a type of strength. So when you lift and you sink and you thrust, that creates a wave action. When you sink the elbow, when you're here, this is sinking energy, thrusting energy, sinking energy. So sinking is down, but in order to sink, you have to relax. You have to be foul before you sink. Once you sink, you direct the next move. So sinking and thrusting go hand in hand. If you notice in the forms, elbow up, sink, thrust, sink, right? They go hand in hand. In Wing Chun, they have the form, right? It's called Chim Kale, sink your bridge. BOG, thrust your finger. So it's common in all the southern styles of martial arts, sinking and thrusting, sinking and thrusting. The other common thing is inhalation, exhalation, right? They call it, some styles call it spit and swallow, tan tu. Spit and swallow is you inhale, exhale. One inhalation, one exhale. So it's really an idea of, breath and movement. When you're exerting strength on the outward movement is the exhalation, and the inhalation is when you are in that floating stage, and the exhalation is the exerting stage. But if you do something like Tai Chi, should you exhale on every forward movement? No, you don't do that because you're not exerting strength. So the breath in the movement in Tai Chi is fluid. Your breath is happening throughout. Because if this is what I'm reaching, not using strength, this could be the strength moving. Because when you're pulling down, like I'm here, this becomes the strength movement. This could be the diverting movement in another case where it's soft. And then this becomes the exerting movement. So it really depends on how you're using your strength is how you should be breathing. So there's no one way of breathing when you're doing your forms, but you try to time it. So anyways, okay, well, you want to go through those punches and so forth again? Right, okay, ready? So this is after this. So we even, right off the get-go, we have, boom, corner back fist, short punch. Okay, so the short punch, all momentum, center. Yeah, so power's there. Just sink your elbow and let it go. Then go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, close. Okay, good. So the butterfly, it's called a unicorn step, the Keelin Bu. So we know that this goes this way, and then this goes this way, and then we would push. And this goes this way, we flip, and then we would push. So that's, the order of the movements, and we have the same setup when we do this. So this step is like that hook in the sweep. So when we're here and we step, it's called Kao Bu, and then you're here, and then you push. So this step should hook, and the hands go opposite direction, and then we shift and flip. So at least understand that footwork, because that's a hook stance is you're really hooking someone's foot. So it's really a pivot or a turn. Now this movement, they run sort of like two arms are sort of like a parallel or concentric, like two circles. Now, because we're crossing and we sink, right? So what's missing there? What's missing, do you think, is missing there? In the overall picture, what's missing? What's missing is, okay, so what Paul did, he bent his elbow, right? So he went like this. So that is a physical movement. So it's not connected to the legs, right? So in order, Irina's reaching, so she's out of her center. So if the arms are moving together and I reach the point of sinking, then that's when the elbows should fold. So elbows don't sink, they fold. Sinking elbow and folding elbows are two different things. Folding elbow is physical. Sinking elbow is part of the sink. So when you sink, you created down to up, right? Then you go down and then up. So the sinking and the rising of the hand become a relationship. Now if I sink, then when I start to lift my body, that's that side of the hand movement. This is my turning side of movement. This is my drawing side of movement, and my body's turning. So you have to create the position. That's the manipulation of skeletal structure. What becomes a physical movement looks the same to everybody. But what you try to develop is the intrinsic motion. So when you sink, it becomes part of that. When you lift, it becomes part of that. When you turn, it becomes part of this. And then you push. So why is that important? Because we're always talking about upper-lower coordination. If the elbows don't work with the knees, how can you create upper-lower coordination? So that's the balance that we have to understand. Because when you sink in the stance, it's here. and you would see this position, but if you go here and then do this, then it's not effective. So it's almost like doing this, right? So it's something you have to build into the movement. And it's, so again, it's a concept, it's a theory, it's a principle, and then you have to work toward it till your body understands and recognizes that that's what happens, in the butterfly. Yeah, so, and we've talked about this before. If this was full hawk and we turn the legs and we pivot, then the body actually is turning with this, because my center is over here, you see. So how your body turns from side to side has a relationship with your knee. So the Keilan is always turning. Always turning. That's the upper body. The hands will go with that. The hands will go with that. See? So you can't, that's a concept that the alignment for that can't be, compromised, because then it's off. But when you're first learning, it's something else. But we're trying to understand it as a principle to progress and perfect that idea. So that's what it is. So is there anything you can learn from this? Is that everything that you're learning is like an onion. You peel away a layer, there's another layer, there's another layer. Because your body has so many components that it doesn't happen like that. It has to be built over time. Because you have to build these, the body understanding. First that, then that, then that. And when your movements enter sort of this subconscious idea, as far as footwork and body, then you can work your arm. This part, there's so many areas. You have 12 major joints. Those 12 units have to work together. The 2 ankles, the 2 knees, the 2 hips, right? The 2 elbows, the 2 shoulders, and your 2 wrists have to build unification.
So when I'm in this,
Yeah.
so my knee should be center line, right?
Yeah.
Every single time?
Yeah, but right there you didn't, but okay, do it again. Do the first one. Your center line, but you didn't turn your body. That's the center line. This is not really center line yet, because you're actually not over the right foot. You're here.
I should be over that.
Yeah. Okay, now
So I should be always kind of this way?
You have to twist your body, like your upper and lower body has to be like you're wringing a towel, opposite direction. So when I turn this way, my body turns this way.
Yep.
When I turn this way, I turn this way. When I scoop this way, it turns this way. So that's using your waist, your yield. See, yeah. But it's a little bit too stiff on the upper body.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we'll bow. Hup. So you just take it home and